Hi, I'm Mary O'Malley. I'm a GTD coach, and today I am here to show you my Trello setup. So for my list manager, I use Trello. I've used it for about 8 years. I really like it. I like how visual it is. I like scrolling horizontally to see my next actions and to choose what I'm going to do and how I'm going to engage. I also like changing the backgrounds. I like how colorful I can make it and how visual I can make it. There are a lot of power-ups, add-ons, contingencies you can use with Trello. I tend to keep my boards very, very simple. And today I'm going to show you a little bit about how I use it. So this is my next actions board, but I usually start with my inbox. I created a board called Inbox so that it matched with the clarifying and organizing map. At the top here is in, and then from there we clarify and organize. I didn't want to see my in with all my other next actions, so I created a separate board. Now, what do I mean by board? So Trello divides things up into boards. You can see on the left here, inbox, next action, waiting for, projects. These are the boards I've created in my system. Now, on each board, you have the opportunity to create lists, which are in light gray. You can see here, add another list. And then on each list are cards. So each one of these sort of possible next actions is what goes on a card. So I'm in my inbox and I need to clarify and organize. And the way that I do that is I can click here. So first I check if this is actionable. Yes. Does it have a good next action? It does. I don't need to adjust it in any way. So I can move it straight from this card. I'm going to move it on to my next actions board. And the list I'm going to move it to is a call, because I'm going to call this person and I'm going to have it be on the first position. And you can see it went away. It is now on my next actions board. Now, this is not very clear. It doesn't have a clear next action. So I'm going to edit it. And you can see there's an opportunity to add more for this card to descriptions. If you write in the activity, it will log the day and the time that you wrote things. So if you want to keep that kind of a record, you can do that. You can see here, again, you can add members, labels, checklists, dates, attachments. I'm not going to do any of that. I keep it really simple. I'm going to move this to that list. And now my inbox is at 0. So let's go ahead and check my next actions. This is my next actions board. And you can see here, I have to scroll horizontally to see all of my lists. Some people don't like this. It doesn't bother me at all. And the other piece about my lists is you can see I have calls and texts, agendas. Those are pretty standard GTD lists, as are home and errands. And then ET stands for educational therapy. That's my educational therapy private practice. GTD is next actions for GTD Focus. I realized my at computer list was getting very, very, very long. And I was really building out all these tiny lists when really what helped me to engage was thinking, am I working on this side of kind of my work, or am I working on this area of focus? And so that's how I've named some of my lists. I also have on hold. You can see this one at the end. I don't need this very often, and not enough goes on it for me to see it daily. But monthly, I have these tasks. I got tired of creating a new card every month, so I don't do that. I just take the card and I move it onto the list when I'm ready to do the next action. And instead of archiving the card when I'm done, you can do that. I don't do that to these particular ones. I just toss it back on that on hold list until the next month when I'm ready to do that next action again. So The other piece is I said I change up my list quite a bit. Here's one way that I do. We are getting ready to go on a trip. And so I usually create a before we go list. And I move very specific next actions over to this list. It doesn't matter to me if they're calls or texts or errands or at computer. They're all things I need to do before we go on our trip. And so that is how I keep clean edges. And when I'm done, I will archive those. And then I will archive this whole list. And I won't bring this out again until I'm ready to go on another trip. When I've completed some actions, if I'm waiting for someone to call me back, I will move it to the waiting for list. I'm not going to show you that because it does have some confidential information on there, but I will show you my projects board. So Trello does not have tags or labels in the same way that Todoist or Omni or Asana do. You cannot keep labels on a card between boards. So that's something to pay attention to. I track projects in two ways. One is I will create a checklist, and that will serve as my project plan. And I will add, I will check it off as I've done the next actions. Some projects I don't need or want to see them on my next action board. I review this weekly, so I stay dynamically engaged. Some of my projects I do want to see on my next actions board. For example, this is one. You can see my project plan here. I can make a checklist for that. I chose not to, but I can also create another card and attach it to this one. So I'm linking cards. And I've also added this label so that I can just really see that blue means it's attached to this particular project. Now, I've turned this next action into a card, and it is sitting on my next actions board on the errands list. And if I want to go there, all I have to do is click on this card, and it sends me right there. And you can see it's linked, it's attached to this overall project where my project plan is. And it tells me projects, personal. And if I click out of this board, I am back on my next actions list. And you can see that blue label. And you can also see this icon that shows me there's an attachment. And that's where I see the next action that's related to this project. So today I showed you my inbox, how I clarify and organize onto my next action lists, and how I manage and engage with projects in Trello. Again, there is a lot more to Trello in terms of the setup and the options available to you. I tend to keep my stuff very lean and pretty simple. And this was my setup. I hope it was helpful for you. Please like and subscribe to this video if it was. And any comments, I look forward to reading them down below. Thank you so much. Bye for now.